We all struggle with self-discipline. But what if I told you that almost everything we've been taught about it is just wrong? What if the usual advice is actually setting us up to fail? Well, today we're going to dive into a much better way to think about it, the architecture of iron will.
We all know this image, right? It's like the Hollywood version of discipline. The hero wakes up at 5 a.m., jumps into a freezing cold shower, and says no to that delicious dessert with a steely smile. It's framed as this massive act of pure willpower. It looks super impressive and, honestly, it's a complete lie.
Yeah, this whole idea that discipline is just one big heroic choice you make is actually harmful. It makes us feel weak and like a failure when we can't just magically summon that superhuman strength whenever we need it. But the truth is, it isn't about being superhuman at all. It's way simpler and frankly a lot more liberating than that. So if it's not about gritting your teeth and fighting every single impulse you have, then what is it? I mean, how do those people who seem to have this unbreakable discipline, how do they actually do it?
This right here frames the problem perfectly. Relying on willpower is like constantly trying to push a giant boulder up a steep hill. It's exhausting, and eventually you're going to get tired. But true discipline, that's not about pushing harder. It's about being smarter. It's about changing the slope of the hill itself, redesigning the whole challenge so the fight is barely even necessary.
And that brings us to the core idea for today. Discipline isn't some personality trait you're either born with or you're not. No, it's a system. It's something you build. So let's explore the blueprint for that system, what we're calling the architecture of iron will. Okay, so here's the crucial point. The most disciplined people out there don't actually win more willpower battles. They just get into fewer of them to begin with. They build a system of habits, and they shape their environment so that the right choice becomes the easiest choice. They just skillfully sidestep the fight. Let's dig in how they do it. The very first pillar of this whole architecture is maybe the most powerful and, strangely, the most overlooked one of all. You have to design your environment. We love to think that our good intentions are what drive our actions. But if we're being honest, we're creatures of convenience. We almost always follow the path of least resistance. Let's call that resistance friction. If a good habit has high friction, we'll probably skip it. And if a bad habit has really low friction, we'll just do it without even thinking. And here's exactly what that looks like in practice. Leaving your phone on your nightstand makes scrolling in bed totally effortless. That's a low-friction setup for a bad habit. But what if you charge it in another room? Suddenly, there's a ton of friction. The same idea works for good habits. Running shoes by the door? Low friction. Veggies already cut up and at eye level in the fridge? Super low friction. See? You're not using willpower. You're using architecture to make the good stuff the easy stuff. I absolutely love this quote from the famous architect Louis Kahn. Your environment is never neutral. It's always pushing you in certain directions. So the real question is, are you giving it a plan? Are you telling your environment what you want it to help you become? Okay, so you've started to design your environment. The next pillar is all about removing the weakest link in the entire chain, your brain, trying to make a good decision in the moment. This is where you automate your choices. There's a powerful strategy for this called implementation intentions. The basic idea is that vague goals, like, I'm going to exercise more, are pretty much useless when you're tired and stressed. Your brain will always come up with an excuse. So instead, you pre-plan your response to take that decision away from your future tired self. And the formula for this is incredibly simple, but it is so powerful. You just have to define two things: the if, which is your cue or the trigger, and the then, which is the automatic action you've decided you'll take in response. And these plans are totally specific and non-negotiable. If the alarm goes off, then you put on your running shoes. There's no debate. You're not deciding whether to run, you're just following a simple instruction you already approved.
And please don't underestimate how powerful this simple trick is. The research shows that using these little if-then plans makes you 2 to 3 times more likely to actually follow through on your goals. That is a massive return on investment for just a few minutes of planning ahead.
All right, now for our final pillar, and this one might be the most counterintuitive of them all. After all this talk about building systems and automation, we need to talk about what happens when everything inevitably falls apart. Because you know what? It will. Life happens, right? You get sick, work gets insane, or you just have a really bad day and eat the entire pint of ice cream. And a single misstep like that can so often derail weeks of good progress. This is where a really common psychological trap, known as the what the hell effect, kicks in. We all know this voice. It's that inner drill sergeant that just rips into you, telling you you're a failure.
We think being this harsh on ourselves will motivate us, but it actually does the exact opposite. It just creates shame, and that shame leads to giving up completely. The single cookie becomes the whole box because, hey, what the hell, the day is already ruined.
A truly disciplined mind replaces that harsh critic with a compassionate, pragmatic voice. It acknowledges the slip-up, but without judgment. It calls it a divergence, not a total disaster. And this is the crucial part. It immediately asks, okay, what's the smallest possible step I can take to get back on track? Maybe it's one push-up, reading one page, just working for 5 minutes.
And this is the real foundation of long-term, enduring consistency. It's not about being perfect, it is all about being resilient. Self-compassion isn't weakness, it's the engine that lets you recover from a mistake quickly, without letting it spiral and define you.
So let's just leave it there. Discipline starts where willpower ends. Stop thinking of it as this constant, brutal battle you have to fight. Instead, think of yourself as an architect. Design your environment, automate your decisions, and build in some self-compassion for when things go wrong, because that is the true architecture of an iron will.